You're listening to the Otis Jiry channel.
Chapter 5. The Project. Most evenings, when Mark wasn't required at the hospital, were spent scribbling out different program ideas, none of which were working out. He would very often fall asleep over his sheets of A4, only to wake in the early hours, aching all over, and then having to drag himself into the bedroom to try and snatch some sleep. It was turning out to be just one of those evenings, and he felt himself about to give in to nodding off when a rap at his door made him jerk suddenly back into the land of the living. He found the door just in time to see his upstairs neighbor about to ascend the stairs. "Hello!" he yelled. "I'd come down to see if you were all right," she said in a concerned voice. "I can usually hear you moving about, but it's been so quiet just lately I was worried." "That's very kind of you to be concerned, thanks. Won't you come in for a cup of sugar or something?" he quipped. It had been so long since he had spoken to anyone socially that Mark was determined to make an effort. It might be the only thing which would preserve his sanity. "Yes, I will come in, but I'm afraid I won't be needing any sugar." She came down the stairs and into his very untidy room. "My goodness, whatever do you do down here?" Mark gave a half-hearted laugh. "It is rather jumbled in here. I'd not really noticed before." "Hey, you're into computers? Great stuff," she said enthusiastically, and walked over to his desk perusing the piles of paperwork. "I haven't seen you around the hospital. Where are you working at the moment?" asked Mark. "Oh, you wouldn't have. I'm right over the back of the sighted maternity." "It's Jane, isn't it?" He remembered at last. "Yes, and you're Mark," she said, looking up from the computer. "Whatever is all this work about? You ought to get out and enjoy yourself in the evenings, you know. It's not good for you to stay in working." "I know, but this project seems to be taking up every minute of my time just lately. It's become a sort of obsession. I feel I must finish it and find the truth." He immediately realized he'd not meant to say that. "Truth? What truth? You sound like a whole weird kind of guy." "No, it's not like that at all. It's all very complicated and difficult to explain." "Try me." "What?" "Try me. I like complicated things that are difficult to explain." She sat down on his old armchair. "I don't know whether I should tell you." He felt uncomfortable and embarrassed. He hadn't intended to ever get into the awkward position of explaining his secret project to anyone. "Well, you can certainly trust me if that's the problem. I love keeping secrets, especially big secrets," she said convincingly. "Well, I do feel I need someone to talk about it. But," Jane interrupted him with a complete reassurance that she had no intention of discussing private matters with anyone else. "But what about your boyfriend? He might object to you spending time here with me." "I'm sure I would, in the same circumstances," declared Mark. "Well, Steve doesn't live with me anymore. I chucked him out 3 days ago. I just got so incredibly bored with him. All he could talk about was bloody football and how marvelous he was at his job. We had a blazing row in a restaurant, and I just walked out telling the whole place that he was to collect his things and get out of my life." They all cheered. "Well, that sounds a bit drastic. You might want him back," he said with his fingers crossed behind his back. "There's no way I'll want him back, thank you very much. I can't imagine what I ever saw in him, to tell you the truth." "You sound very sure about it." "Bloody well I am sure, right?" "Okay. So now you're interested in my little mystery," he remarked, at the same time trying not to decide whether to confide in her or not. "It may be very boring, as it's also to do with my job." "What's to do with your job?" she asked insistently. Mark thought that perhaps he shouldn't make it out to be so secret and mysterious. It was just that he wanted to get some positive results before he told Carlston, rather than make a fool of himself pursuing a most improbable, if not impossible, project. Right, Jane. I'll tell you, but, he warned, you must promise not to laugh. But I like to laugh. In fact, I haven't had a good laugh for ages, she teased. And you won't tell a soul. Not a soul, she promised. Mark spent the rest of the evening and part of the night explaining to Jane exactly what he hoped to achieve. To his amazement, it turned out she had a physics degree, and she soon understood his idea. He had thought she wouldn't grasp any of it, and so he thought it was quite safe to tell her. She explained that although she had been to college, she had decided to take up nursing instead through a sense of duty. Jane had looked after her mother for 2 years while she was dying of a muscular wasting disease, and it was whilst she was away at college, in between visits, that she had died. Although she carried on and finished her degree, she couldn't come to terms with the fact that her mother had died during her absence, and as a result carried with her the burden of guilt. It seemed the right thing to do to enter nursing as a way to appease her guilt by helping others who were suffering illnesses. Mark had listened intently to all of this and felt great sympathy and understanding. His thoughts went to his own father. He had been far closer to him than he ever was to his mother, but now looked upon Alice as a completely different person to how she was before his father's death. Her loss was too much for her to bear, and she had simply crumpled up into the sad sight she was today. He must visit home sooner rather than later, he decided. Jane stayed the night. It was inevitable. They had so much in common. Over the next few weeks they grew closer, and Mark was actually persuaded to go out to the hospital disco with her, and really enjoyed himself. He felt as happy as he used to be back in his student years, in fact, so very much happier. The landlady didn't object to Jane giving up her flat, as there was no problem in obtaining another tenant. Mark's flat was bigger by virtue of a small box room, so they chose to live there. Of course, this meant Mark had a mass of clearing up to do, and only he knew which papers he had no further use for and could throw out. He carefully tore all his old notes into small pieces before they went into the dustbin, and with Jane's help and her eye for decor, Mark hardly recognized the place. He now had more room to live and work. After scores of attempts, Mark came up with a program which he was happy with. If it did what it was designed to do, it would take Mark's stored black box digital data of the EEG submodulations and convert them a section at a time into a video format. The hope was that with a bit of luck and a bit more tinkering about, the original REM sleep data would display itself on a video monitor. Could he really do it? Could he actually record and play back a person's thoughts and dreams? He knew that if it did work, he would be the first person to do it. Jane was able to borrow a video recorder from the social club until it was needed in a week or so for the club's film evening. Every spare moment they had was devoted to the project. Mark told Jane about his life, and she hers. He told her about the strange but wonderful garden at his mother's home in Hempstead, and about the enigmatic old summer house. Mark promised her that when he went on one of his visits to see Alice, he would take her along, especially to see the summer house and the garden. Jane admitted to Mark that she had often felt that she may somehow be in tune with things paranormal, and that it would be interesting to find out if she felt anything inside the summer house. Mark was now in the final stages of wiring up his masterpiece. "You know," said Jane, chomping on an enormous cheese sandwich, "you ought to call this project the Summer House Project." "Why? What's it got to do with the summer house?" queried Mark, tipping his head to one side. "Don't you see the connection? You say that the summer house gives you the feeling that it somehow, in a paranormal sort of way, may hold secret memories within its ambiance, just in the same way that poor guy's memories are likely to be held in your box. That's a very cool analogy, Jane, Mark commented, wishing he'd thought of it. I like it. Yes, very good. Well, when's the big moment going to be? You said it would be all ready yesterday. Nearly there. I had the wrong plugs for the computer input yesterday, but I've sorted it all out now, he stated triumphantly, amidst a pungent cloud of vaporized solder flux. I've managed to convert some of the other plugs so they'd fit okay. And do they, Einstein? Well, of course, Lady Jane.